I'm going to run through this real quick, and I don't want to keep you guys here all night. I thank you all for coming. My introduction was about 15 minutes, so I was going to talk about this a little bit. But something that you may be wondering about the process and why we do certain things. And this is going to be a bench on the wall. It's the calorie balance wall. I had a SO intern to work on this for me, and it's going to explain the dietary practices, lifestyle, and training habits of each one of these situations. It's something that we can learn from it. Not any one of these scenarios is exactly right, but there's something to take from this. And we're kind of shotgun the best of the best approaches of all these different scenarios to make the program come together. So first we'll start with the sumo wrestler. And the big thing with sumo wrestlers, they do the short explosive bouts of training, but we're talking extreme. It's like one rep, sit down for 20 minutes, and maybe do another rep, sit down for 20 minutes. This is how powerful sort of train a little bit. But the big thing with sumo wrestlers, they have 2 meals a day. Big take-home point here is that they have an extremely high amount of calories a day, but it's 2 meals. So when people start to starve themselves and only eat once per day and thinking they're, I'm not eating any calories today, the metabolic rate gets terribly inefficient. Your body thinks you're starving. It really starts having a hard time really burning any calories effectively for you. They doesn't know what's going on. So they know this, so they play in on that, and they will have 2 big meals spread throughout. And yes, they are still about 10,000 calories a day, but they figure out a way to get as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible. So that's what we learned from sumo wrestlers. Small for the are not a bad idea. And so how can you fill yourself up as easy as possible and really kill your hunger cues, basically? Phelps is an interesting anomaly here. You guys all know who he is. Look how lean and ripped he is. Some people that would be very desirable, but he sends the wrong picture here. He's training 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. 7 days a week, 4 hours a day. That's an extreme amount of commitment to do this. So to me, that would be a very inefficient form of exercise if it takes that long to get you in shape. It shouldn't have to take it long, but that's not his goal. His goal is to be a champion swimmer. But the point is, if you ever heard his article or the interview with him, he eats 12,000 calories a day. That's insane. A lot of us don't even eat that in a week. Some of us prep. But he burns it off. It is the most disgusting looking diet you've ever seen. It is the pizza all day long. He has like 4 Red Bulls at a time twice a day. It's just junk all day long. There's nothing rational. It's not a world champion's diet, basically. But he's a genetic freak that works hard enough and he's come together nicely for him. But look how he eats. So what that's about is Mike Marker. Mike has some really fun days of eating, and he comes in and he burns the calories. It's a very one-to-one calorie balance sort of scenario.
You want to hear one thing? Actually, I hadn't thought about it, but a more benign way of like killing stuff without that, just like cool strategies like that work for me. I don't want to build it on getting cheated, so I will find things that I can totally abuse, like you. But I did cardio tonight, so you can't get more pomegranate than I have. I did pomegranate tea, pomegranate yogurt,
Wow.
the rest of a pomegranate bar,
Wow.
pomegranate hot tea. I don't know.
This is a sick man over here.
I'm just saying. Yeah, there were something. I found like things like.
We're dealing with sugar alternatives and stuff like that. Mike has a little bit of a gas issue, and that's what is sort of the hope behind it. That's great. 3 minutes about next, Christina Ricci. This is a term called skinny fat that's thrown around. And the idea here is she's the type that may eat 1 meal a day. It might be sushi, something remotely healthy, let's say. But then the rest of it's alcohol-based calories. And so she's on this elimination sort of approach. But what happens here is she's very protein malnourished. She doesn't eat much there. I'm sure there's no resistance training in her life. She starts to waste away her muscle tissues when they're down to nothing. She's got a lot of catecholamines and stress sort of hormones floating around in her body. Never sleeps. It's this college kid's kind of lifestyle. So it's junk. And I've had a lot of clients live this way and think they don't have to sleep. They don't have to eat healthy nutrition, and they're just going to starve themselves and drink, live on 3 or 4 drinks of alcohol a night and live this lifestyle. Well, it's kind of very similar to this protein deficiency syndrome like kwashiorkor or marasmus. The pictures are very sad, but it's a very similar situation. She's got this fat deposit around her stomach there. It's really, it looks like maybe a woman down there around the waistline. That's a lot of what happens in, say, a malnourished state there. And you see the fat developing around the abdomen. So it's just a very sickly state of being. Right? But so a lot of people start falling this trap of, and it's kind of like Shane was talking about, just skip meals and this and that. And that's what I'm talking about. So you're somewhere between the sumo wrestler in that situation. Your muscle development is just withering away. Your body might start metabolizing off muscle tissue, and you're in this funky middle ground. You're never going to get the leanness that you really have to. Now bodybuilders are very interesting because they the best of the best at, they're good and bad to this lifestyle, but they're the best of the best at building lean body mass and shedding off body fat. A lot of people about their approaches. But they go to an extreme amount of time, sort of like Phelps, talking about like, Todd over here, he's a competitive bodybuilder, he's in his mass gaining phase now, so he's done everything he can to gain as much muscle tissue as possible. He's completely anabolic, meaning he's overeating calories on purpose so he can gain as much muscle mass as possible. So when he gets ready for his competition, he's going to be living on chicken and broccoli. So you would sit down and talk about diet. I'd probably use the example that the easiest way to get lean is eat small frequent meals with chicken and broccoli, but that's not a lifestyle. So how can we add in other healthy foods around the day that is going to make it more of a reasonable diet and way to live? So in about 12 to 16 weeks, Ty can go from very massive and large to ripped, to where you can literally see his kidneys almost through his skin. That's the goal. These guys have figured out weight loss to achieve, as well as lean body mass gain. So we're doing everything we can to gain as much muscle and burn body fat. So that's not exactly everyone's goal, per se, but it's an interesting case study to look at and see what these guys are all about. But they use a lot of steroids in these scenarios here. So like Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the 30 years ago or so, the drugs were a little bit newer then. They didn't use human growth hormone and steroids together, or testosterone together. So it was more just testosterone in his days. It's pretty common now. These days, the guys are using human growth hormone and testosterone together, and they're about an extra 50 to 80 pounds heavier than what Arnold was back in the day. So there's that involved with the lifestyle. But the problem with their cardiovascular approach, what they do is they'll do a lot of steady state walking. And what they're doing, meaning they're walking very slow for a long, long period of time. What happens there is you're actually preserving lean body mass to the nth degree and shedding. You're in this metabolic state where you're really burning fat very efficiently. The problem is you have to do this for several hours a day if you really want it to work effectively. So think of the 1 to 2 hours of weight training you have to do to stimulate that much muscle gain. Then you're talking about 1 to 2 hours of just walking a day. So that is no way to live, in my opinion. Sorry, Todd. You look good. So that's just for the bodybuilders, the culture and environment. It's something to take from there. That really dietary though. I think they wrote the book on how to lean up dietarily. But chicken and broccoli is not a very fun line. Below there is the figure competitor girls. That it's not a very good picture, but same kind of approach. But their goal is not building large volumes of muscle. They're trying to lean up and have that whole bikini model sort of. So it's very similar lifestyle there. But the biggest difference is not exactly their training. They train almost exactly like bodybuilders. It's the difference in drug use. So they are females, they have 1/10 the natural testosterone level that males have anyway, so their response, she could lift 100 pounds for 10 reps, he could lift 100 pounds for 10 reps. The response to their body is not the same, simply because of hormones. That's why when we talk about diet, I'll say, calories in versus calories out. That's a 5-second speech. You guys are all educated, smart people, you already know that. I'm not going to procrastinate with beating that to death. Let's talk about hormones after that and what healthy foods do by manipulating certain hormones like insulin and glucagon, etc. But when it comes to testosterone, let's say, the response to heavy weights is substantially different. Then there are all the endogenous additions of say, testosterone and HGH on top of it that the females are not doing. So their response is much different. So same lifestyle, tons of weights and tons of cardio. Gymnasts here, they do not have a very, they actually normally have a very healthy diet practices. They eat like rabbits, but similar sources that say the bodybuilders and bigger competitors would. But they eat like rabbits. But their training, though, you see how lean these people are and how flexible they are. Their training is very short and fast and explosive. It's a lot like our HIIT style of training or some of the boot camp conditioning stuff. The burpees, the down and ups, that explosive type plyometric style of training is exactly how they train all day long. These small bouts is that all day long. They're not on there running 5 miles necessarily, all day long. That's not what builds that lean mass like that. So they don't do a steady cardiovascular program. It is a strength-based explosive program that they do that gets that kind of development and physical nature in the body. But they're in very low calorie deficit sort of environment as well, so that helps them get a leaner. Now, these are 2 Olympians in terms of ultra endurance marathon running versus sprint training. The problem with taking something to such an extreme, let's say the marathon running, what happens is you get to that co-rich environment where you really start to metabolize a lot of branched chain amino acids, proteins from the body, where you start to waste away and you're very weak. So it's not that you're just burning fatty acids. That happens, and that's why the bodybuilders walk a lot. Because you're in aerobic metabolism where you can really burn fat calories, let's say. But it starts to give you too chronic, too much work, or amino acids start to be metabolized out. So it's not the ultimate balance. So we do some of that where necessary. Then the sprinter, however, is very much like the gymnast, where they do short, explosive bouts, exactly like our HIIT style training. You can see he has a lot more lean body mass, and he's every bit as lean as the other guy. This is a much more happy place to be in terms of being functional and active. So plus it's a lot less work to get what he's doing versus the other guys. Several hours of work is required. Next here, now this is kind of a trick question here, but who do you, this goes back to, now I won't give the answer away, but who do you think is stronger? This guy here in this blue shirt, or say Arnold Schwarzenegger over there? I've heard it, a million ladies walking my office and said, don't want to become Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's not a bad guy. Well, I guess he is these days. But they don't want to get muscle bound and bulky from lifting weights, and that's the biggest stereotype that I see all the time. Okay, now the point here is this guy in street clothes looks no different than any guy in this room, but he is a 4-time medalist at the Olympics, the best lifter of all time pound for pound. He's won 3 gold medals in the Olympics. There he is at the Sydney Games with about 450 pounds over his head. He's in my same weight class. He's actually 187 pounds. He's ripped. In this picture, you can see a six-pack through his singlet. This guy is muscle and meat. It's all, I mean, it's just shredded to the teeth. All he does is lift weights. It's snatches, clean and jerks, and squats all day. His diet is a very Mediterranean-esque sort of diet approach, but his whole goal is to lift the heaviest weight humanly possible. His rep range is between about 3 reps and below. His highest reps per set is about 5 reps. So people are like, I'm going to do 3 sets of 15 all day long. That's actually what these guys do. 10 to 15 reps. Todd's average set is about 10 reps per set. So that toning kind of the style and approach of just doing these light sets all day long. Mike used to do 2 sets of 25 when we first started. And it obviously didn't work. So we've got to put a little bit of weight on the bar for lean, for density. You know, so the muscle doesn't, what happens really is you've got a muscle cell, sorry, make this quick, that is becoming, there's 2 muscle cells there. This is Arnold's muscle. This is Pyrrhus Demus's muscle cell, where it's very dense and compact and tight. It's still developing, but this one is loosely packed, and there's a lot more fluid around it. It's not as tight of a muscle. It's sort of this situation, but we're looking at just muscle tissue data. So, 187 pounds, is probably 250 or so. Competitive stake there. So, that's what heavy weightlifting can do. Not exactly. Heavy weights do not necessarily build big muscle. When you're lifting 10 to 15 reps, yes, you can lift heavy weights for the best effect, but it's a bit confusing. Next to Caveman, we bring him into play because that's what Chris looks like. And that's it. Cavemen have a very interesting dietary approach. And when it comes down to, say, the food guide pyramid or healthy, what does nature intend for us to eat? Really, if you look at a caveman's diet, it pretty much makes sense. Fruits, vegetables, wild game, those sorts of things. Those are very nice, healthy foods to look at. And there's really a lot of different chronic diseases that were onset. Really didn't start until we really started getting off the beaten path when it comes to agriculture and those sorts of things. So looking at his dietary approach is something very interesting to look at. Even when you look at, say, nutrient deficiencies and diseases that took place in the caveman, there's a lot less than what we see nowadays. And a lot, there's a big misunderstanding with cavemen. A lot of them lived in the 70s. They lived in their 30s because an accident happened. Big bear chased me and killed me. They didn't get away. And it's another thing to consider too. The exercise and lifestyle of cavemen, they roamed around. They were physically active all day. They didn't say walking was exercise. It was part of their life. But their exercise was running away or fighting, something quick and explosive. That's what the body's really intended to do. So it takes very well to that. So, and they were, allegedly from the bone density studies that they've done, they found that they were larger, muscular people and didn't carry much fat mass. So something to be said to the caveman lifestyle. So when we add all this together and throw it in one mess, that's the latest program. Basically, so we do weight training, we do heavy weights, we do light weights, we do steady state cardio, we do explosive cardio, we do crazy off the wall stuff like a caveman might have to do to attack a wild animal, perhaps. We don't eat large meals twice a day. We do, understand that calorie balance is important with Michael Phelps here, and you can get away, and you don't have to eat like a saint all day, and you can actually veer off the path, but you got to get your balance in it. Newport has nothing to offer, actually. So that's about it. So that'll be on the wall, and we'll actually have an example of what their dietary take for the day is on the training site. So it's just interesting to look at, to a good reminder about certain things you might be doing when you don't want to do your hit. Just remember these guys.